it's Jessica here, the Furry Family Coach. Thank you so much for joining me today. In this video, we're talking about how many carbs, which translate to sugars, that you're feeding your pet. And I wanted to show you specifically how to figure this out if you're feeding a commercial food. So first off, why is this important? Because we don't want to be feeding our pets high levels of carbohydrates. Just like we don't want to be eating high levels of carbohydrates, it turns into sugar in our bodies, which isn't good for a number of reasons. Overloading your body with carbs and sugar causes all kinds of diseases, including diabetes. It can mess with vision. Obviously, it's going to mean that your pet is at risk for being overweight, which in itself brings lots of disadvantages. You don't want your pet to be overweight. You don't want to put your pet at risk for all of these unnecessary diseases when all you have to do is decrease the amount of carbs that your pet is ingesting. We know that generally kibbles they start out somewhere between 40 and 50% carbohydrates. It's not possible to actually make kibble and have it like form and stick together in these tiny little pellet shapes without putting in loads of carbohydrates. That's how they get these little pellet shapes, how they get all of the food to stick together. Nobody has figured out how to do it any other way. So if you're feeding a kibble, you're starting off, like even the very best kibble you can possibly buy is going to be starting off somewhere between 40 and 50%, sometimes more. A lot of the veterinary prescription diets that we think are better for our pets have even more carbohydrates in them than a lot of over-the-counter kibbles that we can buy. Some up to 60, high 50s, 60% carbohydrates, which again translate into sugar in the body. So I wanted to show you guys how you can very quickly and easily go grab the can of food that you're feeding your pet or the bag of food that you're feeding your pet and just start, first of all, look at the ingredients. And as we know, when we read an ingredient label, we're looking at the ingredients that are listed first are the majority of what's in the can. So in this particular product, which is a cat food, and let me switch this around, sorry guys, so you can see and read. There we go. Done. Okay. So that you can see, this is a canned cat food, and this is primarily what my cats eat because I have tried over and over to switch them to raw. I have multiple cat household, and if you go and look at my YouTube channel, I think I just looked at it, I have somewhere like 25 videos about transitioning your pet to a raw food diet. And I talk about both dogs and cats in those that video series. And I have tried a number of times to switch my cats to a raw food diet. Some of them like it, some of them don't. I have a multi-cat household. They're all over 10 years old, and it has been a challenge for me to transition all of them over to a raw food diet. So their primary diet, they get absolutely no kibble, but their primary diet consists of the best canned food that I can find. And right now that is Weruva. So we're gonna go through the can here. I'm gonna show you how to translate what you read on this can into something that makes sense to you. So the first thing you wanna do is look at the ingredients and make sure you agree with what's in them. Like, there's not a bunch of junk in them, right? And then another trick is when you're reading the ingredients, a lot of times, especially with these big food manufacturers, they'll take one ingredient and break it up into 3 or 4 different ingredients and say, pea protein versus I don't know, pea whey from peas or something like that. And it's really one ingredient, so it would be much higher up on the label, but they break it into like 3 different parts of the pea, for example. And so it doesn't show as the first ingredient like it probably would if they combined it all together. So you want to look for that. That's another tip. But when we go to the guaranteed analysis on the can, which I'm going to try to show you here. Whoop. Guaranteed analysis. We're going to want to start reading the protein, the fat, the moisture, and the ash. Now, here is the basic calculation for figuring out how many carbs. Right now, food manufacturers, pet food manufacturers, are not required to put on the labels how many carbohydrates are in the food. So you have to be savvy, you have to be smart and figure this out for yourself. And this is basically how we figure it out. You take the percent of protein, percent of fat, percent of moisture, and percent of ash, add them all together. Now, not all bags or cans of food are going to have the ash listed, especially some of the huge manufacturers that don't want to provide you all of the information. If ash is not listed, the industry average is 6%. So that's what we'll use if ash is not listed. You total all of these together, subtract it from 100, and that is the percentage of carbohydrates, which are sugars, that you're feeding your pet. So let's look at this can of Weruva. This is the paw licking chicken, and see what it says. So I wrote it down ahead of time so it's easier to see. In the Weruva paw licking chicken, we've got 10% protein, that's the minimum, 1.4% fat, 85% moisture, and 1.2% ash. That totals to 97.6%. So you subtract that from 100, and we're looking at only 2.4% of carbohydrates in this can. So that is probably, as far as pet food is concerned, like an industry low. When we're looking for foods to feed our pets, we definitely want as few carbohydrates as we can possibly get. And, you know, of course we talk about making our own food, and obviously the best thing we can do is to put them on a fully balanced raw food diet where they're getting nothing but fresh foods. That is the best thing we can do for our pets. However, if you're in a situation where the best you're able to do for your pets is to buy a commercially available food, this is how you figure out what carbohydrates are in the food that you're providing to your pet. Super important stuff to know how to do it. So I wanted to make sure that you guys understand and know how to do this. Obviously, the lower the number, the lower percentage of carbohydrates, the better. And this is a cat food. I was just out feeding my cats, and I decided to show you guys with this can of food exactly how to figure that out. And I took these numbers directly from this can. I didn't make them up. I didn't pull them out of thin air. These are the figures that are on this can. So I wanted to provide you guys with this information. It's really important for us to do our research and know what we're doing, what we're putting on and in our pets' bodies. And when you know better, you do better, right? So now you know how to do it. And I encourage you all to go grab your, whatever you're feeding your pet, the can of food or the bag of food, look at it, take this formula and apply it to what you're feeding your pet right now. And you'll be amazed, especially if you're feeding a kibble, you will be absolutely amazed at the number of carbohydrates that are going into your pet's body, which again, carbohydrates turn into sugar in the body. And we know that cancer cells are fueled by sugars. So if your pet has cancer and you're still feeding them kibble, the number one thing you can do for your pet is to transition them to a low to no carbohydrate diet. These carbohydrates are fueling cancer cells. So I highly encourage you to check out this formula, apply it. Let's see if I can get it all on camera. There we go. Apply it to the food you're feeding your pet right now, and let me know what you find out. I'd love to know. For your specific brand and type of food, send me the calculations. I think it would be awesome for us all to have that knowledge. Go ahead and post it in the comments, whether you're watching this live or you're watching a recording, post it in the comments. I'd love to know. And that way you might be helping somebody else out that may feed the same thing and they haven't yet gotten up and grabbed that bag and done the calculations themselves. If you post it, it might be helping them out. So go ahead and do that. Post it in the comments. Thank you so much for being with me today. And I'm saying too much. Sorry. Go ahead and grab your copy of my new ebook, 7 Miracle Steps. It is about dog training, but I talk about so much more than dog training. I also talk, one of the things I talk about in the book is nutrition and why it is so important for you to be very involved in your pet's nutrition and what's going into their body. It really is. Whether you're training your dog, whether your dog is trained, whether you have a cat, learn this stuff, because when we know better, we do better. I put a link in the description of the video. Go and grab your copy and let me know how this information helped you out. I would really appreciate it. If you have any questions about anything else, it doesn't have to be about figuring out the carbohydrates in your pet food. It could be about dog training or dog behavior, cat behavior, anything else to do with pet nutrition. Go ahead and comment below. I would love to answer your question. And with that, guys, I'm gonna go ahead and jump off of this video, but I will see you in the next video.